Today I'm here to tell you to think. I want to discuss some more headlines in the news as of late and basically try to get to the root of why such propaganda is so successful. I mean, we have a time right now when valuations for a lot of the gold and silver mining stocks are at a low for this 12-year gold bull and silver bull. Yes, it definitely still is a bull as the trend is still upward, definitively, especially when one considers the physical markets over the fake, bogus paper markets. And you have no one buying. So, of course, the mantra is buy low, sell high. But people can't understand because they believe the propaganda that there is a bear market in gold and a silver market in gold, which is patently ludicrous if you just look at the physical buying that has happened in Asia, that's happened in Australia, that has happened in the Middle East, all during this recent Western banking cartel paper slam of gold and silver prices. But here's another headline that is patently ludicrous. It says, stocks fall, yen soars on central bank uncertainty. Okay, so this is even though the yen had lost about 25% of its valuation when it's valued against the basket of major global fiat currencies in the first several months of this year. You have a headline that's saying the yen is soaring. And you see this all the time. You see US dollar strength or euro rises, but you cannot have anything rise when there's a global currency war and race to the bottom. That means all fiat currencies being devalued by central banks because central banks are printing trillions of whatever the said currency is, whether it's pound sterling, euros, yen, US dollars. So in other words, all things are falling. But at some points in time, one currency is falling, say, very rapid pace, and other currencies falling slower. So respectively to one another, let's say the yen may appear that it is rising relative to all other currencies when it is really in actuality still falling, but falling at a slower pace. So to say that a currency, any currency, is soaring during these times is so ludicrous. That is like if you push 5 people off a 3,000-meter building, or say you push them off that tallest building in the UAE. I can't remember the name, but only one has a parachute. So all other fall until they reach like terminal velocity or falling at the same speed, and then at that time, one person pulls his parachute, so his descent slows, and the others still keep falling very rapidly. But you say this person is soaring, implying that he can reach the top of this building again because he's just falling at a slower pace. That is what these headlines are saying, which is patently ridiculous propaganda, yet people believe it just because a talking head on TV says it, or they read it in the Wall Street Journal or Reuters or Bloomberg, and they think it's infallible because it's in print or because a person is reading it off a teleprompter on the news. And that is also ridiculous just because you have someone that is trusted, a trusted person like a news anchor on the news reading it. People see that and internalize it as truth without ever thinking for 1 second to try to analyze what is being told to them to discern whether it's a flat out lie, which in most instances it is, or it's propaganda. So the other ridiculous thing with news, right, just because you have a talking head there speaking out of the television that will tell you something, most people internalize that as truth. But all they're doing, they are not analysts, they are not journalists, they're just news anchors that are reading news that has been given to them. So there's no difference, say if you had Hello Kitty pop on the screen and have a cartoon talking and telling you the news in some high-pitched ridiculous voice. People say, oh, that's ridiculous. I'm not going to believe that quantitative easing doesn't happen in this country because Hello Kitty's telling me it. But you get a person, a news anchor, tell you that everyone believes it because how many times have I heard? I've heard so many times from other people saying, "Oh, this country is going to be fine because quantitative easing doesn't happen. This central bank doesn't engage in quantitative easing, whether it's Thailand or whether it's some other country." I've heard people say that time and time again, which is ludicrous because all quantitative easing is an expansion of the monetary base, whether it happens from central banks buying financial assets from troubled banks to bail them out, or quantitative easing basically raises the price of financial assets and lowers their yield. So whether that's done directly, indirectly, every central bank engages in quantitative easing today. So just because it's being said in some newspaper, I've talked to so many people that will tell me, "Oh no, quantitative easing doesn't happen in Thailand." But look at some of the other headlines I just showed you, right? It said, stock markets plunge because yen is soaring. Okay, there's a direct relationship to that. How come when the Nikkei 225 was soaring, they didn't say, there are no headlines from the bankers out there saying yen is plunging and that's a reason for the stock market soaring, which it was, because if the yen devalued by 25%, by definition, as stocks are denominated on the Japanese stock market in Japanese yen, they're going to rise 25% just on the devaluation of the yen, and there was no real tangible wealth being created by this quantitative easing. Okay, so when you have a central bank lowering interest rates, if you look at the interest rate in Thailand, it's so ridiculously low. What this does, it encourages people to invest, okay, to take out loans that they normally wouldn't take out if the interest rate was, if it cost them 8%, 10% a year to borrow that money. But when it only costs them a few percentage points, what do? They borrow money. And what do they do when they borrow money? They put it in the stock market or the real estate market. So it creates a massive distortion in stock market prices, and that is quantitative easing. It's ludicrous to me that you can have people, because they can't use their brain and they can't think, that will tell you quantitative easing does not exist in certain countries just because that country is not overtly supporting commercial banks by buying their financial assets, or you don't even know what they're doing. Because for years, right, if you said that the Federal Reserve was propping up the U.S. stock market, people will call you conspiracy theorists. Even at the same time, the Bank of Japan admitted to purchasing trillions of yen worth of stocks to prop up the Japanese stock market. But people say, "Oh no, not in the U.S. It's too democratic. It's too much of a free market for this to ever happen." But yet everyone knows now that the Fed Reserve props up the stock market, right? So these things come out over time, and just because they're not told to you by the banking elites in control does not mean that they're happening. So whenever I have an argument with these people, it's funny because most of the times I have these arguments with bankers. They either, seriously, this is how they resolve it. They either just call me a stupid name, right? Or cuss me out and walk away because they cannot have a reasonable debate because their points are not supported by any factual evidence or logic. Or they say, "Oh, I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to sit here and argue and debate this point with you," because when presented with facts, they can't. But they can't support their faulty argument that these central banks are not engaging in quantitative easing, which is just a term invented by Ben Bernanke to mislead people into the fact that really all it's saying is that quantitative easing is the devaluation of purchasing power of any fiat currency. And since in the United States, the US dollar, right, but people want to stick to this definition of, oh, it only happens if central banks buy financial assets from struggling banks. But really, it's just a devaluation of the purchasing power of any fiat currency. And since the purchasing power of the US dollar has lost 98% since the origination of the U.S. Federal Reserve in 1913, and over just barely over 100 years. So you have $20,000 in 1913 that you would now need $1 million to buy the same amount of goods and services today. It's a ridiculous amount of currency devaluation. It shows you the immorality, criminality of the fiat banking system. That my message today is basically to start using your brain, is to start thinking and not to fall to all this propaganda about gold bear markets, silver bear markets, about strong recovering economies. It's just ludicrous, ludicrous, ludicrous. Okay, thanks again for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe below. And until next week, take care.